welcome back. I am taking a very short break. This time of year when I come up in my garden, it's about all I eat. Earlier I was eating peas and pea pods. Right now I'm eating small string beans. Small, don't care. I planted enough string beans that I allow myself to eat whatever I want when I'm up in the garden fresh. Raw is really good for you, right? So I just finished canning up a canner of meat. I threw those 9 back end hind legs of gray squirrel into half-pint jars, and those will go to the gentleman that brought me the gray squirrels. I canned them up, and the other day they had a sale on rump roast, so I just threw them into jars. It came to a full canner, so that's good. While I was finishing up that, somebody stopped in, and they were headed up to my stepdad's way up the other end of the driveway here, Camp Road, and they brought him some 5-gallon buckets of honeycomb, all that stuff. So I had met them quite a few times, but they had never been here, and we've never talked about how I live. So when I told them I could not get off the deck because I was monitoring my canning, she got all excited, folks. She understood that I could not leave that canner. I said, the wind is coming up. I said, I don't want that flame to go out. So I've got to stay right here and monitor my canner. She understood. So they pulled up so they can converse with me. And we had a chat. He asked me why I was canning outside and not inside. I said, well, one, it's a beautiful day out. And two, I have no means to pressure can inside. And he asked a lot of questions about that. He did not realize that I do not have a cook stove inside other than my wood stove that I cook on in the wintertime. He did not know that I didn't have any form of electricity. And they did not know I didn't have running water. So they were real excited at how I live. And I forget, folks, for people that do not live the way I live, which is an everyday occurrence for me, right? I don't even think about it. That they find it very fascinating. And she said, I don't know how you do that and do it alone. That's a lot of work just in the garden. I said, yes, ma'am, it is. And she asked me if I pressure canned everything, and I said, no. Sometimes I water bath, like my tomatoes, my marinated salad, stuff like that. I do pickled beets, dilly beans, and I dehydrate. And I pointed to my 2 mesh dryers hanging from inside my woodshed. And she said, I saw them, but I thought those were compost bags. I said, nope. Those are mesh air dehydrators. And she asked if she can get out and go for a look, and she looked them all over, folks. She was so fascinated and said, wow, those are big. They're huge. And I said, yes, they are. And she asked how much food would fit in there. So I told her about my 10 pounds of dried onions. I said, what carrots you see in there are 5 pounds of carrots. The other one, I have garlic scapes, onion tops. I have pigweed, lamb's quarters, and I have sarsaparilla root. that they're all dried. Everything's got to be taken care of. So she was completely amazed at that. She asked me how much it cost, where she could find one, and so I think she's gonna order a few. So while I was out tending to the birds, somebody else popped in. Oh, this company was meant for me. And they asked if I could give them some pointers on their potatoes. And they also wanted to write down my sawdust potato method. So we went through all of that. And she asked if the potatoes were coming along in the sawdust. And I said, you know, I've been 7 years that I have perfected that method. I've got it. So, and I explained it was new ground. And that there were potatoes growing underneath those plants in the sawdust. So she just kind of looked at me. She didn't not believe me, but she acted like she wanted me to show her. She was that curious. So what I did was I moved away some of the sawdust so she could take a peek at one side of where the potatoes were growing in one plant. And that convinced her right there. She goes, look at all the potatoes. I said, yep. I said, this method works. It just works. So she made sure she asked all kinds of questions and took all kinds of notes. And I showed her around the garden. And she said her garden looked a whole lot better than hers. Because one, she was learning how to garden. She had gardened years ago, but not serious like. It was more like a seasonal hobby. And it was just more for a few fresh vegetables here and there. So I explained a few things about the garden. And my garden does look pretty good, folks. Despite the short season, you've got to get right on top of it. And you don't have time to let it go weedy. And because that'll slow the growth down, right? It'll slow the production down because the weeds will suck the nutrients from your plants. So you've got to stay right on top of it. So for such a poor growing season this year, my garden looks pretty damn good. So I'm not complaining. It does need water. We really need rain. We're supposed to get some rain, like chances of rain the next, well, Tuesday on, I guess, for 3 days. We'll see how that goes. So I have got to gather some more kale. I've got 3 or 4 different types of kale here. I am going to cook some up for supper, and I am going to throw the rest right in the mesh dehydrator. I am waiting for the pressure to go down in my canner so I can take care of those jars and allow them to sit there probably until tomorrow night. And then I'll wash them up and put them away, right? So, for those of you who have not pressure canned, folks, pressure canning can be a lot of fun. It really can. You can get real creative. There are certain rules that you do have to follow. If you are one of those people that heard horror stories of canners blowing up, they don't make that anymore. They make all kinds of safety features now, so it's not going to blow up unless everything is going wrong and you don't have that rubber safety plug, right? If it overheats and it gets too much pressure, that'll blow that rubber safety plug off, release some of that pressure so it doesn't explode. So if you get a new canner and you take care of it, it's a very safe mechanism, folks. Now, like I've said before, I've got a Presto 23 quart pressure canner. It is a dial gauge. I'm used to that dial gauge. I tried to get a rocker gauge, and I cannot find one. They're all out of stock. I've been trying for 3 years, folks, to get a 5, 10, and 15 pound rocker, and I just cannot get my hands on one, so I have to rely on the gauge. Therefore, I have to sit right there, especially when you can outside. A breeze comes up, and you just got to sit right there. Just sit right there, and sometimes I'll bring out a book. Sometimes I'll bring out a paper and pen and create this list and that list. So, but going right back to this lifestyle, a lot of people are fascinated with how I live. They really are. And it amazes me how fascinating they are with how I live. It amazes me because they think, you're living way back in the 1800s. You're living way back the way my grandparents did when they were young. Well, not quite. Not quite, because I've got a pressure canner, and I've got a vehicle, and I've got a cell phone, right? So, but the traditional way of living nowadays is usually not how I live. If we were thrown into a place in our lifetime where we did not have running water, we did not have electricity, we had to rely on the food that we grew, the meat that we raised, and supplement that with collecting berries when they're in season, collecting wild fruit, berries, medicinals, mushrooms, if that's what you're into. I'm not into harvesting mushrooms. I do like chanterelles, but very, very little. If we ever are thrown into that way of lifestyle again, there is going to be such a culture shock, folks, and people are not going to know how to survive. They are just not going to know how to survive. So that's why it's important to learn how to garden, raising your own meat, learning how to forage. Some people really need to learn a work ethic, and they'll either learn a work ethic or their thievery and their manipulating and their bribery will get them where they need to be, right? So that's just the way it is. Y'all hang in there, and thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. If any of you have seen the video I did this morning, I can be tactful. I can be brutally honest as well, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Now, that's just the way it is, and that's just who I am. And I don't put up with BS, and I don't tolerate BS. I don't judge you, you don't judge me, right? So y'all have a good day. Thank you for coming back. Come back again. I'd appreciate that. If you like anything that I have to say, you can like, subscribe, and comment. You can share it if you'd like. I know some of you have told me that they have shared it on their social media, Facebook and stuff like that. That's always welcome too. So thank you for being here, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a good day.